Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing. On today's show, what does an airport have to do with James Joyce? Is Australia showing us how to do disaster notifications? And STMicroelectronics kills us with air pressure. You'll see. All this, plus 2 fundings, 1 M&A, Tasty Delight's new book, and special guest Lalita Krishna of Choco-Locate. Hey, you. I need you to focus. This is a good one. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 94 of This Week in Location-Based Marketing. This is live between Asif and I on a Saturday night. It is September 8th, 2012, and I welcome you, and Asif welcomes you. My name is Rob Woodbridge from Untethered.tv. If you haven't checked it out, there's a little bit of a redesign. That's all I'm saying. Go to Untethered.tv where you can find all the resources you need to build your mobile business. And if you're not in the mobile space, bring mobile in to make a little bit of money. With me, as always, my cohort, my partner for 94 episodes from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Take it away.
Asif Khan, Location-Based Marketing Association. You can find us at the LBMA on Twitter and also on the .com. 94 episodes, Rob. We're back at it again. Another exciting show, and looking forward to it.
We have a huge show. Of course, we've got our top 5 stories that Asif has assembled, has curated, has collated, has deciphered and digested, and he's about to give you his exceptional expert insight into what's going on there. We've also got a great resource of the week, which is our typical thing, and this is a little interesting one. It's a book, Tasty Delight. This is it's an amazing story, and Asif, man, he made the index. That's what we're going to be talking about. Got our funding, we got our funding news, and of course our interview of the week, which is coming up soon. So stick around. This is going to be a good episode. But before we do that, just want to know if there's anything going on with the Location-Based Marketing Association. Are you heading back out on the road this week, Asif, or are you home?
I am. No, I'm in full conference mode now. So I leave Wednesday and head out to Denver for the tail end of the National Retail Federation Shop.org conference, and then transition right into Thursday, Friday, still in Denver for the M for Mobile's Mobile Retail Engagement Conference, which I'm heavily involved in, 4 panels and all kinds of stuff going on. So should be lots of fun. And then head over on Sunday from there to Chicago for FSMU, Food Service Social Media Universe Conference, so all the restaurant chains and how mobile and location and social, all that comes together for them. So busy times. And then, so that's like a whole week I'm going.
Oh my goodness. Well, at least it's, at least it's not sunny California, right? It's Denver and Chicago.
Yes.
Well, I think it's...
Yeah, I don't need sun.
No. We've had enough.
My tan's good. I get the perma-tan. I'm good.
Nice. Yes, the non-cancerous version of that, right? Well, that's good. And then this is how it starts, for you. You have a couple of, maybe 4 weeks off over the summer, and then it just kind of picks up and ramps up. And it must be hard to be the voice of this industry, always on the road like that. It's a thankless job. We should all be sending Asif our thanks for this, to create awareness for this industry. Yeah.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Shut
it.
up. I made the index.
Okay. And on that note...
Yeah, well, why don't we jump right into this? It's been a busy week, and there are some great stories. There's some meaty stories, and this is what I love is that when I see some of these stories come through that you send off, and there are a few that I gravitate naturally towards. They're usually more of the geekier stories, but it's funny because we both love the same stories, which is great. And there's always a few that I think I end up scratching my head. So we got a great diversity of them. So why don't we give this a go? Let's get going. Let's not waste any more time. All right. So this is our first story. Comes from overseas. This is the Dublin Airport working with James Joyce's Dubliners, right? And
Yes.
You got to explain this because on one point I'm thinking, wow, this is perfect. This is the coolest use of location-based technology, but it ends up being a book with a like a yellow sticky on it saying, "Take me," and take some photos of it wherever it's going to go. Take it away, Asif, because this is...
Yeah, it's an interesting combination of technologies, and I guess the reason I pulled this one out is we hear so much about retail and sort of brands and the real consumer in your face kind of stuff, and this is a story about how the arts are engaging with location based technologies. So what you have here is the Dublin Airport Authority, as you've already mentioned. You have the Dublin Theatre Festival, which is what this is centered around. And so for the entire month of September, what they're doing is they're basically hiding 5 copies a day of James Joyce's Dubliners book around the airport with a yellow sticky note on them that says "Take me, I'm free." And then there's also a daily audio excerpt that's coming via SoundCloud. So in total, there's 150 copies of this book that are being handed out, daily audio excerpts, and basically, combining that with Pinterest by, you taking photos of this thing. And then, when you do that, then you can also win tickets to the, to the theater production. You can win other Penguin, the book is part of Penguin's publishing empire, so you can win other Penguin classics. You can win shopping vouchers at the airport and other things as well. But it's really focused on building awareness for this theater production of James Joyce's Dubliners.
Yeah. I'm going to pull up here for those of you who are watching at home on your screen in video, which is mostly HD, close to HD, as close to HD as you get. This is the Dublin Airport Authority's website at Dublin Airport, and or a Twitter account, and it's got at the bottom of this what you see is a week of SoundCloud clips, and I'll jump over to SoundCloud now, and I'm going to play you a clip of what you get. I'm not sure when these are played or how you activate these, but take a listen here.
Every night, as I gazed up at the window, I said softly to myself the word paralysis. It sounded to me like the name of some sinful being.
So every day that gets played. There's a little clip like that gets played or gets posted up onto SoundCloud. And I mean, they're using all of the right social mechanisms, aren't they? They're using Pinterest, they're using Twitter, they're using SoundCloud, and they're using this kind of thing, this old school thing called a book, which is really funny, I find. And all of this technology, the catalyst is a book, and you're supposed to send pictures of yourself with that book on your travels. One thing I don't get is the whole airport take. Right? It's a weird spot to do this in the middle of an airport when people are on their way out, when you're supposed to be promoting this thing that's happening in Dublin.
Yeah, well, but maybe that's maybe that is a part of the experience is that you arrive there and maybe you find it. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's in the arrivals area. I don't know where these books actually are. What's interesting though is I think that there's obviously some relationship between the Dublin Airport Authority and this theater company. I mean, the DAA is a official sponsor of this production. Like, I mean, they're one of the the promotional partners for this. So I think that's interesting. I mean, and is it a cultural partnership? Is it James Joyce is, when you think Ireland and you think literature. I mean, I don't think you can think of anybody else, first before you think of James Joyce. So,
no, absolutely not.
I get that, but I don't live there. I don't know. I'm not experiencing it. So, but I do like the combinations of technology. I like how it's find a book, in a location, find location-based audio clips connected to that. Post photos from where you are with that book to Twitter, which then get published to Pinterest. I like all.
I'm going to pull up this. So, this is great. There's a picture. You can't see it, Asif, unfortunately, but it's basically a copy or a sample of the book, or a copy of the book. It says "Take Me, I'm Free," and it is obviously in Dubai with because he's taken a picture of it with the. And I'm describing this to those who can't see it, but those who can, obviously, just turn it off for a second, but he's holding it up right next to the sail, the building that looks like a sail in Dubai.
Okay.
So I think they're taking this book with them, which is, but I like it. But yet, when I start to think about it, it's like, God, you're supposed to be attracting people to this play, right? Not sending them, scattering them around the world. But I still, the arts. Let's go with that. This is good for the arts.
Go with the arts. No, it's hey, I applaud them for.
I do too, James.
A for effort.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're interested in following any of this stuff, it's really interesting to see where these books end up. Which is the cool part of this as well. But just follow them at Twitter, twitter.com/Dublin Airport, and you'll be able to follow some of these great pictures. They've had rugby players, soccer players carrying these things out with them, and it'll be interesting to see how far it goes. But it will also be interesting to see how many people actually read the book. Pristine copies of these books floating around. But very cool. I got to hand it to the arts. Dublin Airport. I like that this is working out. So James Joyce, Pinterest, Twitter, SoundCloud, Dubliners. That's a good combination.
Got it.
All right. Story number 2. You're going to have to explain this. You're talking about bananas and apps and fun and the confusion I had about this story. This is about Chiquita bananas, but where I live, right on the corner from me, is this chain of hair salons called Chiquita. So I got a little confused, which is not hard to do. But why don't you explain what this is about very briefly, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So, the story is centered around what Chiquita is doing with this app, but really it's a story about a company called FunMobility, which is a mobile marketing company that has effectively built a platform that is focused on rapid deployment of location-based tools for any brand. Chiquita happens to be, one of the brands that's, jumped on this thing, and and it's very low cost. It's basically for they say $8.99 a month. You can get up and running on this thing and activate a bunch of widgets. So what it is it's a prepackaged location-based platform, with store finders, check-in tools, coupons, rewards, all the stuff that you might want. If you were to go and build your own thing. And so effectively it's just a white label platform, already ready to go, activate whatever widgets you want, and there it is. So Chiquita's jumped on this. They branded it as Chiquita Fan Fun. There's a leaderboard piece, there's playing games, there's check-in to win prizes, there's find the closest place where you can buy Chiquita bananas. And they've got Target, Safeway, Walmart, Kroger, all kind of included in this, in this first go for them. So, again, this is really a story less about Chiquita and more about here's a rapid deployment, location-based platform for any brand that wants to do that.
That makes a little bit more sense than the hair salon around the corner. Trust me.
Right.
It was very difficult.
So they came out and said that from the moment Chiquita basically said we wanted to go with this thing until they had a fully functional app in market, loaded up with all the stuff they want, it took 6 weeks.
6 weeks. That time is just shrinking. It's going to be shrinking even more as we go along.
Yeah.
It's interesting because this is where we start to see that, it's a little bit of a divergence away from somebody else's platform, like a Foursquare platform, because you can do all this stuff on Foursquare, right?
Yeah.
So now people want to own this themselves some way, shape, or form, and I think that...
Yeah, if you want your own branded app thing and you want, control over what functionality is in that app and what widget you want to turn on or not, and it's iPhone and Android, by the way.
No BlackBerry?
Yeah. So there you go.
No BlackBerry, no Windows.
So check out FunMobility is the
FunMobility.com. Go check them out. And they have a great website, very informative, FunMobility. And Chiquita. Now I want bananas. I need a haircut, but now I want bananas.
I like bananas.
All right, third story. Talk about a story whose time has come. This is something that I would have expected, many carriers and governments to want to do. We're talking about Vodafone and Telstra working on a location-based disaster notification alert system through SMS. And I think that this is... This should be standard, shouldn't it be by now? Or are we just entering this era of SMS and location and that kind of notification system?
No, I agree. I think it should be standard everywhere. I think the challenge with this kind of stuff is you have, different jurisdictional rules going on all over the place from, regulatory bodies, whether it's the FCC or CRTC here in Canada or whatever it is. This is in Australia we're talking about. around what sort of information is actually usable out of a consumer's device, from figuring out where they are, from an E911 perspective, or emergency services perspective, which is what we're talking about here. So yeah, so this is cool. I mean, I think SMS makes sense here. You're talking about triangulation off of cell towers to figure out position, and I think this is a good combination. Vodafone and Telstra. I mean, these are the two big players, or two of the big players in the Australian market, coming together and saying, yeah, I mean, this is now available, and if there's a problem, and it's not just for people who are there. This is for tourists. This is for everybody coming in. If you're going into an area, in Australia, and there's severe drought conditions or whatever it is,
forest fires, whatever.
Forest fires, you'll get alerts about those kinds of things.
It's an interesting play, because what's the process? First, what was really interesting about this is that they had to wait for government approval, which is an interesting thing. I guess that's for the privacy label around this.
Yeah.
Right? And then the second thing I wonder is, how do you sign up for this? Because I know, oftentimes I've done a lot of traveling. You've done a lot of traveling. I go to foreign countries. I go to developing nations, and what people recommend you do is go and sign in if you're going to go and do anything. I climbed Mount Rinjani, a bunch of volcanoes in Indonesia, and one of the things that they suggested you do is go to your local consulate and sign in, and just let them know, hey, I'm here, I'm on my way to Mount Rinjani, it's this, I'm going to do it on these 3 days, and if you don't hear from me, that's pretty much the last place you should be looking for. The first place you should be looking for me, the last place I was. And so
Right.
I wonder if it's the same thing here, is that you land in Australia, they say, hey, text this, text your phone number here, or text, whatever it is, whatever their short code is, and we'll know that you're here, and then we'll send you messages when things get bad or get ugly in the areas that you're going to based on your location. It's got to be that simple, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as I was reading this story, though, I was trying to understand. Like, there's definitely some kind of regulatory issues going on here, and I think this is part of the issue in other countries as well. So this falls under something called the National Emergency Alert System, which is a program run by the federal government, obviously, emergency management, ministry of the Australian government. And as a carrier, apparently you have to apply to be part of this program. You don't just, you can't just automatically participate in it. So basically, Vodafone and Telstra have received approval to be part of this national alert system. Whereas, as I was reading this thing, Optus, which is another carrier there, has their own system, but they're not part of this national system. So,
I suppose in that way it would be what? It would be almost like an advertising vehicle that Optus would be using.
Well, I think it comes down to, there's probably some cost elements to this too, right? I mean, in terms of, the usage, the cost of pushing out that SMS message, and who bears that cost, right?
Yeah. Well, it seems so simple. Like, it should be just ubiquitous. Like, if you think about hurricanes, and if you think about forest fires that are happening, August and September in North America are kind of hurricane and forest fire months, right? The heat of the summer, and especially this summer, it's been dry. It's a tinderbox out there. But then you've also got hurricane season and the warnings that happen, on the Gulf Coast. And so you start to think about that, and this mechanism is true and is perfect. SMS is perfect because it's ubiquitous. Every phone accepts SMS messaging these days. You don't have to have a smartphone. So I hope to see much more of this happening.
Well, I don't understand how you can't get this kind of stuff going when this makes a ton of sense. But it's easy for us to get SMS spam messages.
Well, exactly. I've won 9 iPads this week.
I know, so have I.
It's amazing.
We're on the same list.
And then you know what I did? It just as a side. I went up to Twitter and I said, who do I complain about this? And I got like the usual CRTC, and I'm like, well, what do I just call and leave a message? No. But somebody said, okay, so text this to Rogers and the offending phone number, and then all of a sudden I started getting I got 15 text messages from Rogers selling me phones. Like, nice. Rogers, you stink. How did we get there? Vodafone, Telstra, helping spread the word about disasters in Australia, government approval. This should be cool to watch. And hopefully what we see is we start to see this rolling across countries. And I think that you can trust your government with your location, right? right?
Yeah, I can.
I don't know.
I'm good with that.
I'm okay with that. That's
All
our
right.
third story.
Now the next story I really like.
This is one of the coolest stories that I think that we've come up with, and it has to do with a company that builds chips, which is a weird thing to talk about here. But this is a story. This is a company called STMicroelectronics. They've announced a 3D location sensing chip. Now, what's so great about this, Asif? It's that it's 3D, and it's not like you're in 3D. It explain it, because you know what, I'm blown away by this, especially altitude. I absolutely love this altitude piece. So walk us through this.
Yeah. So basically, what they're talking about when they talk about 3D is, for the most part, when everything that we've talked about on this show up until now, really, when we think about location based or determining somebody's location, for the most part, if we're talking apps, we're talking using the GPS chip in that device to figure out somebody's location. If we're talking indoor, maybe we're talking Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. We could be talking cell towers to triangulate. But at the end of the day, we're talking about a lat and a long, a position from that perspective.
A one-dimensional. This is a one-dimensional. This is a one-dimensional position, right? It's like
one-dimensional position. Now, what these guys have built is a chip that basically, looks at pressure, air pressure. Okay. To figure out your altitude, okay, and this is really, really important kind of stuff. And every device, every smartphone is going to have this kind of thing in it going forward. And I'll explain why this is so important. Especially, we talked a lot about indoor location the last couple of months on the show. There was that report that came out. We had it as a resource, I think, one of the weeks, that said that the next $1 billion market is going to be indoor location. Okay. But when you think indoor location, and you think about determining somebody's location inside of a shopping mall or in an office building, and you're trying to push them content or an offer or a deal or whatever it is, right? If you actually know what floor they're on, or whether they're on the they're riding the escalator or the elevator in the shopping mall or whatever the case might be, they're going up or down. That can totally change, the content that you're going to position. Think about a shopping mall, even if it's 2 levels, okay? We've got lots of those here in Ontario where I am, 2-level shopping malls. Okay, great. So, if I know you're on the ground floor and you're walking by, the drugstore, great, I can push you some content for that. But if you're actually on the floor above the drugstore and, you're in front of the Gap, well, let me push you stuff about the Gap, right? I mean, do you know what I mean? Like it's having that altitude, that additional element is going to be really, really important when we start to get really finite about where somebody is.
Now that's what's so unique about this, is that the first generation of technologies are about putting sensors or something that identifies you're on the first floor versus the second floor, and here is a chip that actually detects air pressure to give you basically to determine how high off the ground you are and to determine your altitude, and that's what is really cool here, is that they rethought the problem and made it so that they've created this chip that can fit into phones, obviously low battery and low battery consumption, low power consumption. But what they did is they rethought the problem. They thought, this is nobody's gonna the challenge to adoption for people putting sensors and putting Wi-Fi hubs and nodes and all nooks and crannies to be able to get good visibility on somebody's location, is that it's not going to happen in every mall. It's not going to happen in every location because it's too costly, and they're not interested in that. So here's an opportunity based on just rethinking the problem, putting this challenge in front of somebody like this, and them coming up with something that says, well, you know what? The air pressure is different on the first floor than it is on the second floor. And this can go down to, I think it's, half of the deepest in the ocean. It can go down as, I think it's 1,500 meters, and it can go up to about 10 times. Yeah. What was it? I don't want to use the numbers wrong here, but
it's 260 millibars, which is about 10 kilometers in height, down to 1,260 millibars, which is 1,800 meters below sea level.
So that's what it can tell, and it can literally, it's so sensitive, it can tell. It says here literally almost to the step what step you're on. And I find that
Yeah.
that's
No,
incredible.
it's crazy. And all of this in a 3 by 3 millimeter size, chip in a smartphone or in a watch or anything.
It changes.
And they've already, by the way, got this in some Samsung devices.
Yeah.
So,
but that changes everything. Like that's what we mean by 3-dimensional. It's not a hologram. It's not any of that garbage. It's quite literally, it is. It's left and right and up and down. And I think that is amazing. So STMicroelectronics, just Google this. This is a pretty cool tool. Just Google 3D location sensing chip from STMicroelectronics, and this is what gets us excited. I saw the story and I was like, wow.
Yeah. No, I'll reach out to these guys too. We should try and get them on the show to talk about it in some more detail.
All right. Now we can stop gushing because our fifth story, maybe this isn't so exciting, but Neiman Marcus, heard of them? Big retail chain, Neiman Marcus.
Yeah.
It's a company called Visa partnering up on SMS deals. That's all I got to say. Location-based SMS deals.
That's all you're going to say.
No, it's not. I got more.
Yeah. So,
yeah,
it's interesting. So they Neiman Marcus and Visa launched a program called NM Buzz.
Oh, it's such a terrible
NM
name.
being Neiman Marcus.
So bad.
So customers enroll in this thing. They have to have a Visa account and a mobile phone number to participate in this. And it's Visa's mobile messaging system or SMS messaging platform that's being used here. And basically what happens is you connect your Neiman Marcus account with your Visa account, and you can get deals sent to you that are connected to your Visa. So it's not unlike the Foursquare Amex relationship, except that it's only Visa and Neiman Marcus. I mean, that's basically how I see it.
Yeah.
And the difference is that the deals are promoted via SMS as opposed to you have to discover them in the app.
Yeah, this is okay. So you got Visa, and you got a company like Neiman Marcus, and you're partnering, and the whole goal here is, they cite this example. Say like you're at a store that's near a Neiman Marcus store, and you buy something with your Visa, then you'll get an instant text message saying, "Hey, don't forget about Neiman Marcus." It's like, God, it's intrusive. It doesn't. I mean, it goes against everything that we've talked about. I think here. I think that the effort, for effort, but what they should be doing is doing the automatic couponing and automatic discounts at the checkout with Visa, and then notifying them that hey, listen, you know what? Because of you've tied your Visa to your Neiman Marcus account, you bought something here. Then guess what? We've already applied the 15% discount, and do a nice little level up, which is hey, the next time you come in, we'll give you 5% for doing this. So incentivize people to come who are already buying, who are already customers, who are already embedded in or part of the Neiman Marcus purchase process. Don't interrupt me because I'm at a Starbucks. I use my Visa, and it's like, oh, guess what? Neiman Marcus around the corner. Oh, you're right. That's where I was heading. Not. So I think that this is a good effort. The challenge is obviously that it's only Visa, it's only Neiman Marcus, and it's only smartphones or SMS. There's much more that they could be doing here. But I really like the idea of partnering with a credit card company because, as we know, who owns the relationships?
Yeah.
Credit card companies.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk all about the laurels of simplifying the redemption process and simplifying the notification process, for the consumer by connecting to a credit card company. I totally get that. And Visa is doing lots of fantastic things right now in this space. They launched their V.me wallet, which is their wallet. They've got a partnership with Buy.com. They put out there recently. They've agreed to connect also into the Google Wallet platform. So Visa's all over this stuff right now. So from their perspective, this is just one of a gazillion things that they're doing. From the Neiman Marcus side of things, I think they need to be doing more. They did do a Foursquare campaign last year as well, so they are trying some things. But I'm not sure that, as you put it, interrupting the consumer in this way is the best thing for them. As opposed to more of a loyalty play. Yeah,
bring people in the store. There's certain goals from a retailer's perspective, and listen to what you say, listen to what Doug Stevens says over at Retail Profit. When you've got somebody in the store, you're trying to increase basket size, or you're trying to get them back into the store. I mean, those should be your only goals, right? Either sell them one more product, which is an impulse buy, or get them to come back tomorrow or the next day, or when they need something, incent them to come back. And that's not always a discount, but that's loyalty. And you want that. You don't want the flyby shopper who's going to come in once. What you want is to create those relationships. And I think that all retailers, Neiman Marcus included, should be thinking this way. Bring people back to your store. Don't interrupt them in somebody else's store. Bring them back, right? Make them aware of that. And the only thing here that I'm a little bit leery about is purchasing patterns on Visa. I mean, what is their their privacy policy around anonymizing this data and then allowing the retailer like Neiman Marcus to customize SMS messages based on somebody's purchase price, purchase pattern. Say like, they bought gloves over here, but did you know that Neiman Marcus has scarves that match that glove? Those gloves, and we're willing to give you a 10% discount to get you in the door. So this is where it gets a little bit murky for me, because on one hand, as a capitalist, I love that. I would love to get absolutely precise, honed SMS messages about something that I need based on my purchase behavior. As a guy who's paranoid about giving up too much information and privacy, that would scare the crap out of me. So, these kind of relationships I think are going to come and flow. But this is, Visa has an insane amount of data like this, and their inference data just alone is artificial intelligence-like already, and they can predict what people are going to buy and when they're going to buy it. So how does that play into Neiman Marcus, and are they using that in order to be able to bring retailers in? So many questions, man, that we're not going to get answered. Which is typical, right?
I agree. It's, but again, I think this is a good move for Visa, part of a whole, slew of things that they're doing in mobile and location. So, good on them. Neiman Marcus, step it up. I think is how I'd wrap it up.
Yeah.
Look for the loyalty play there. And, I'd love to hear what Neiman Marcus is going to do around, mobile payments and, checkout.
Yeah.
Are they going to do, what our good friend at JCPenney is going to do? And kind of go completely mobile checkout. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that yet, but
or something like Aisle Buyer.
Love
right?
to hear their thoughts around that as well and how that fits into the mix. So anyhow,
well, can I just and let me finish with this with Visa, because here's a perfect example. You mentioned it very early on when we started talking about this story about 38 or 40 minutes ago. Visa is using their own SMS gateway to push this content out, which is really interesting to me, because, is this a sign of what the credit card companies need to do to combat the carriers that are going to get into the payment space and the other payment systems like Square, who people are going with, like Starbucks? So I wonder, how much of a play is this as a value-added service for merchants to stay with Visa Direct, and I know they're just basically a front for this, but I wonder if this is part of that, and the data that Visa has on the purchase patterns. I wonder if that has a lot to do with it. And I'd love, maybe we get Tom Purvis back on and talk about what's going on with Visa and this, and because I think that this is an interesting development for credit card companies when they're running their own SMS gateways like this. All right. We murdered that story.
All right.
Those are the top 5 stories. How did we do? We covered everything. We got some culture and some art and some technology and some retail. Man, we got a pressure sensing chip that goes into cell phones to tell you what your elevation is. My God, I don't think they get any better than that. Nice job, Asif. Everybody.
And we even sort of went around the world. We had Australia.
We did.
Ireland, the U.S.
Yeah. Where's Canada in this?
We're circling the globe. Canada's coming up somewhere, I think. Yeah, in the funding.
In the funding, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
it is a global play here. Well, listen, if you like those stories, you didn't like those stories, if you felt that we missed a few of those stories, if your story is coming up next week, reach out, untether@gmail.com or steve@thelbma.com, and we will talk about you. Good or bad, be wary. Be careful what you send us. It could fall on our good day or on our bad day, but these are great stories, Asif, and as always, I really appreciate you putting those together, and hopefully you guys out there do as well. Send Asif an email message to thank him for doing that. Well, it's that time, Asif. Time for our interview segment, and this time we go back, actually not to the vaults, not that far back. In episode number 86 of This Week in Location-Based Marketing, we talked about a company called Choco-Locate Media. It's a Toronto-based company that had an app that actually allowed you to locate some of the finest purveyors of chocolate, real true chocolate, around the world, basically. And this was a location-based app. And I got together with the founder of this company, Lalita, Krishna, and what we started off talking about was a location-based marketing app, but what we really found out was it was a deeper marketing plan for her documentary, Semi-Sweet, which is all about, making chocolate. It was very cool to see this. And this is a segment around that, around how she leveraged the app to actually create an audience and awareness for her documentary. Unbelievable. This is up on, the full interview is up on Untitled.tv. You can go and check it out there, but this is about a 6.5 minute segment where she talks about how she leveraged mobile and the web to create an audience for her documentary. I hope you enjoy this. This is Lalita Krishna, who is the founder of Choco-Locate Media. Here she is. Do you think that your audience who saw Semi-Sweet are the same audience that are using the app, or are you exposing it to two different audiences? This whole, you're basically a purveyor of fine chocolates, and then you're right on the app side, and the documentary is something that kind of goes a little bit deeper into how this is developed. But are you going after two different audiences?
That's a really interesting question, because in many ways we built an audience for the documentary through our app and through the website, because the app and website have been ongoing in a beta phase almost a year before the documentary was released. And in this process, we were continuously, chatting with our audience. We've got a lot of social media, we've got fans on Facebook, and we've got a Twitter account. And we were able to create a sense of anticipation for the documentary. And we got amazing, just unbelievable press, media coverage, and resulted in record viewership for TV Ontario, who is a provincial broadcaster, and they're thrilled because we were able to bring everything together for the big launch, on television.
That's a really. I'm just making a note here. That's a really interesting perspective, right? Because your point about the audience before this was that, listen, if these big major motion pictures have an audience already. I mean, these guys are they come stoked with an audience. Like, you've got Spider-Man or Superman fans, but with you guys, it was you leveraged this technology, this mobile technology, this social media technology, to build an audience prior to actually getting the documentary out the door. Have you ever seen, in all of your experience, have you ever seen an opportunity like this where you can reach the audience and help it shape your documentary, as opposed to put out the documentary to an established waiting group of fans and then try to market the hell out of it, which is typically what happens, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's exactly what happens. And typically what happens too is that people think about doing the transmedia extensions after they've made their documentary. Right. So they'll make the film, and then they'll say, let me take all my extras, the stuff that sort of got left behind on the cutting floor, and I'll put it all on this website, or let me start building an audience base. That's changing now. People are aware that as they begin their documentary, they must start. So in the case of Semi-Sweet and Choco-Locate, we actually consciously started work on all three platforms in January 2011. And, I had funding for my documentary. We'd done the research, we'd done our trailer, we've done everything. So we could have started at least 3 or 4 months before we actually did. But I wanted to make sure that, we had everything lined up for all three platforms. So we literally started all three platforms together. And of course, it takes a lot less time to do the website and the mobile, and plus it's a work in progress. So as I said, we keep updating and it continues. So we were able to actually do our beta launch in July of 2011, and started getting media attention almost right away, right off the bat. So we were able to tell people there's a documentary coming. So everybody was like, when's the documentary out? And then as we started our interviews and started cutting pieces together, I was able to tease people by putting a few things on the website. And, so there's a lot of engagement now with our characters, which is really unusual for a documentary.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that. A lot of times the documentary is out and then the app is submitted to the App Store and waiting. And I see this quite a lot, and it seems to be a big mistake for documentary, especially independent documentary filmmakers, that you made a good point there. Is that it's really easy to build a website and an app compared to actually creating a documentary, right? So start with the basics and start with a very beginning understanding, and then you could literally, quite literally, build an audience before and build the anticipation prior to that. And I think that's the big point here, is that these tools are available. You can actually, a tactic that I've seen very effectively is target, do a little bit of a mobile advertising, target these put a little banner ad on some apps that you think is your target demographic, and then go out and advertise before and see what the response rate is and see if there's a demand for that kind of stuff. And I think that's what you're doing with this. I think it's so fascinating to build the audience before you actually launch a documentary. And that was Lalita Krishna, the founder of a company called Choco-Locate Media. Go to choco-locate.com. Really appreciate her being a part of Untethered.tv, allowing us to use that clip for This Week in Location-Based Marketing. All right, now it's that time, the joyous time, M&A and funding, money being exchanged hands one way or another. One way or another. You're either getting money, well, both ways you're getting money, I suppose. You're getting money and some pressure, or you're getting money and an exit on your way to the beach. Right? That's what the M&A and funding section is about. The first one, really interesting company called Pirq. Like, at first blush, this does not seem like any different from any of the other companies that are out there trying to help restaurants, grow and maintain their clientele. But it is a little bit different. They raised a little bit of cashola, didn't they?
They did. So they got 1.2 million from Rally Capital, which is the company who originally funded them. So in total, they're up to 3.2 now. All from Rally. Rally's is a fund that's headed up by Dennis Weibling, I think is how you say his name, and he's the former CEO of Nextel. There's a guy with some pedigree running that one. Pirq's an interesting company. They're focused on that restaurant segment, again, the same segment I'll be talking to in Chicago in the next week or so. And these guys, one of the things that kind of put them on the map early on, and again, we're talking about funding here, so I don't want to talk too much about the company, but just out of interest, one of the things that first put these guys on the map was they did a deal with Apple, where if you were an Apple employee, you got special deals, via Pirq, and for the restaurants that were near the Apple campus in Cupertino. So it was kind of interesting. But there you go.
What I like about Pirq, really, at first blush, I read it, I'm like, another one of these things. It's PIRQ, by the way, PIRQ.com. Is another retail, another couponing or discount or loyalty app, but these guys are focusing on that time frame that are typically downtimes for restaurants, right? Between 2 and 5, they're trying to incent footfall, activity inside the restaurants during that period of time where it's typically not good. So they're doing heavy discounts between 2 and 5, and they're working with their clientele to be able to do that. And that's what I like about this, is this excess inventory piece, right? We've talked about this so many times, and I think that this is one of those plays that's what's so interesting about Pirq. And they're moving it also. They're taking some of this funding and moving it into, expanding their industries that they're in away from, keeping obviously with the restaurants, but also looking at retail and other industries to be able to help them drive footfall and activity into their stores. And I think that's what really got me with these guys. I'm impressed. I want to get these guys on for a long interview on Tether.tv to talk about how they did it, how they managed to buck this and pick this space. Yeah,
and we'll talk about these guys in more detail. I think another time. When we're not kind of bringing them up because of funding. Yeah. But one thing that did come out related to this funding announcement is that they announced a punch card system. For tracking loyalty and repeat visits, a punch card. But what's really unique about it, and they've actually filed a patent around this, and again, I want to dig into this at some other time, but basically you can use the punch card whether you have a smartphone or not. which is really,
and
really
by SMS,
interesting.
right?
So you have the app, and you can track repeat visits and see how how often you're going, and are you like a level up. Are you earning more as you go? But if you don't have that, you can get effectively the same functionality purely via SMS.
Yeah, and like I like what these guys are doing.
Yeah.
So I mean,
anyhow, so there you go.
Pirq.
1.2 million from Rally Capital.
And if you've never heard of them, man, just go check them out. PIRQ.com. Pirq. Even their name, a 4-letter domain name. All right, second story. This, boy oh boy, is this ever a lesson for media companies everywhere? I truly believe that newspapers and media outlets and all these guys have to become commerce engines. I've been talking about this for months. Commerce engines. They have to be enabling. They can't just be advertisers. A dumb display is dead. They just don't know it yet. There's a cliff coming in the next 2 to 3 years for display advertising, stupid display. And I believe what Gannett did with KeyRing, which is our second story, it's an acquisition, is a sign of things to come. And companies out there, big national chains in Canada, the United States, this is something that I would be looking at very closely to see how this works out, because Gannett, who do they own? They own like they own everybody, don't they?
USA Today.
Small newspaper called USA Today. Talk about this, because I know we're in agreement here, right? This is they have to do this.
Yeah, and Gannett is obviously, they spent some time over the last year or more, figuring out their mobile strategy, their digital strategy. They've been mapping that out. Somewhere in that plan was, we need one of these, and one of these, because they've been out, starting to buy up these companies and rolling them in and integrating this stuff. So this is actually their second acquisition in like as many weeks. So they a few weeks ago they bought a company called Blink, an advertising company called Blink, for $92 million. And then this week they bought Mobistream Media, which is the maker of KeyRing. I didn't see any numbers on that one, but it's interesting. So this is KeyRing it's a mobile app. It's intended for consumers to sort of consolidate all your loyalty cards and reward cards and coupons into one sort of wallet, so to speak. One KeyRing, as the name implies. So it's this is the kind of thing that every sort of newspaper company needs to be looking at. I'm fully in agreement with you.
Yeah, this was a great buy. Whether or not KeyRing is the company, that's going to take them there to the promised land. I don't know how many customers they have. I know very little about KeyRing, but the idea that they're looking this way for customer acquisition and enhancing, and that's the big thing. They got these advertisers. You've got to turn every one of those ads that they have in your whatever magazine, newspaper, into a transaction. That's the bottom line for these outlets now. And I think that what Gannett just did with KeyRing is exactly that, man. Creating a loyal newspapers out there. Look at what these guys did. Keep a close eye on what the results are, because I think this is a huge trend. Things to come, and I think that this is a very forward-thinking play by Gannett. Big fan of this. Yeah.
And the other nice thing too is that they're going to let it continue to operate as its own business.
Of course.
And then just leverage it as a platform on behalf of the Gannett property.
Well, you start to think,
they're not bringing it in house and breaking it up and killing it.
No,
they're going to let it go. So
it's a feed. Like, think about it's a feed for clients. Like this is what you want. You want small and medium-sized enterprises. How do you do that? Newspapers. USA Today is too expensive to advertise, and here's a perfect way to leverage that network. So everything about this just fills me with joy. So maybe there's going to be one newspaper left. Actually, the New York Times and the Wall Street and the USA Today. Maybe the Wall Street Journal. All right, that's the second story. Gannett acquires KeyRing. If you're interested in KeyRing, just go to keyringapp.com and take a look at what these guys do. I definitely have to get those guys on. Man, it's so good. This content is so rich, and it's free. Let's see if this is where would you put the paywall up right now? We just stop talking. You can you just got to send us a little bit of money for us to continue.
Yeah.
Awkward silence.
Just 25 cents a view. That's all we want. Yeah, no, I'm kidding.
That's the old school. That's our homage to the newspaper industry. Thank you. Scene.
Yeah.
Okay. Our last story.
All right.
Our last story.
We got one last.
This company called Snappli.
A little Canada.
A little Canada. And you know what? I don't know. I can't help but say that this is inspired by another little Canadian company that used to be a monstrous Canadian company that is now a little Canadian company called RIM. But I'll tell you, they raised $1 million to basically help throttle or help reduce the amount of data you consume on your smartphone.
Yeah. So it's $1 million coming from Greylock Partners, Index Ventures, and an angel named Klaus Hummels. Some guy who's apparently the same angel was into Skype, Facebook, and Spotify. So he's doing all right.
That's a good thing.
Klaus, if you're listening, we got some great properties here. Rob and I, we could use a few shekels. So,
I'm for sale.
Anyhow,
I'm 100% for sale.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, so $1 million to help Snappli grow a bit bigger. As you said, this is a company that's all about minimizing the amount of data that's used while you're browsing or using apps on your smartphones. Something that you're quite right, RIM's been doing all along. But we're not talking about RIM devices here. We're talking about iPhones. And so they're trying to optimize that for the iPhone. I mean, it sounds like it's something like that Apple should just buy and build in. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, this is, all the complaints, not the complaints. I suppose that what early days during the smartphone revolution, RIM was really about this. It was about minimizing the amount of data that we consumed through these devices, and that was one of their tenets for these things. Is that for corporate wise, anyways, your data costs are going to be lower and significantly lower as a result of the NOC and the system that RIM used. So and that's what ended up hurting it quite significantly when it the smartphone market emerged. But that's what it does. You're on the RIM NOC, and basically what it does is it shrinks the amount of data that you consume as a result. It goes through this, and we know what happens when it goes down. But it's funny that Snappli
and I think the key difference here, though, between Snappli and what RIM obviously was doing via their NOC is that this is more consumer focused in helping the consumer understand, on an app by app basis, how much data, is moving from that perspective. So, they're basically giving you tools so as an individual user so that you can see a breakdown of, how much, this particular website you're trying to browse, is costing you, how much this particular app right now is costing you, from a data flow perspective.
Pretty cool.
I like that, especially for a guy like me who travels a lot, and data roaming kills me every time I go anywhere. This is the kind of thing that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's the next thing that somebody has to battle: data roaming charges. Yeah. This is a cool thing. I mean, I have a 6 gig plan with Rogers, and I very rarely actually reach a threshold where I get nervous about the amount of data that I consume. And I am I say consume, baby, when it comes to bandwidth. It means that you're hopefully getting as much as you can out of these devices, and I do. So, but if you're interested, just go to snappli.com, snappli.com, and they raised $1 million from some heavyweights. Yeah, I don't know why that guy just doesn't buy an island or something like that and go and retire. You've done okay. It's okay to slow down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but maybe not. All right, funding, M&A, good stories here. Great stories. Pirq, KeyRing, Snappli. What do you got? Did you get some funding? Are you getting some funding? Has it closed but you haven't told anybody? Do you want a way to release that information? Man, we are here for you to do that. Reach out. You know our email addresses at this point. untether@gmail.com or asif@thelbma.com. Or you can send Rob at untether.tv. I don't care. Just reach out. We want to hear from you. We want to put your story right. We wanted to replace the Snappli story with yours. And now I'm disappointed that we didn't.
All right.
Okay, now, here we are. We're almost done. Our resource of the week, alluded to it a little bit before. This is one of those things where it all came together with me when you brought this book forward, The Tasty Delight Way. This is a book about absolute, yes. For those of you who can't see it, wait, keep it there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. There we go. Yeah, the Tasty Delight Way. This is a stellar book, obviously, for no other reason other than maybe the writing's okay, but Asif gives a good review of it in the book, and he's in the index, not one, not two, not three, 4 times, folks, 4 times.
Yes, 4 times.
Talk about the book, man, because this is we should be
phenomenal book. I mean, I could. You know what I'll do? I'll actually read you my review.
I was going to say.
So, I read this book as it was being written, as often is the case by many of the reviewers.
What we need to do is we need to set the lighting right.
I'll just make a quick comment on it first of all. So this is the Tasty Delight Way. If you don't know Tasty Delight, I'll just quickly say who they are. So they're a frozen yogurt franchise chain, mostly in the Northeast U.S. Very, very successful, known especially for being very forward-thinking on social and mobile and location, which is why they wrote a book about it. They were one of the very first to ever partner with Foursquare early on and kind of build that out with case studies. They've been all over the TV, on every news channel in the U.S. talking about it. Very, very successful company in using social and mobile and location technology. B.J. Emerson is their technology guy. He's the co-author of this book along with James Amos, who's the chairman and CEO of Tasty Delight. So the two of them together wrote this book. But I'll read you my review because I think it says it all. It says, here's what I wrote. The Tasty Delight Way is an invaluable resource for marketers and operators alike. Nowhere else have I seen such concrete understanding of basic franchise business principles and thorough working knowledge of mobile, social, and location-based thinking displayed in a concise and thought-provoking manner. The book is a unique guide into the true inner workings of a business and its efforts to use the latest in technology and tactics to stand out from the crowd. And it's not just theory. They've done it, and proved it yet again. There are case studies, and then there's this book. This is it. There you go. So if you want to understand it, and you don't want just one case study, you want to see a company who's doing it right, here you go. Read this book.
There are case studies, and then there is this book.
That's what I said.
Oh,
yeah.
I see. Man. I'm going to get you to write a review for Untethered.tv. There are case studies, and then there are reviews, and then there's this book. Now, this has been universally acknowledged from some of these heavyweights, luminaries, like Chuck Martin, who wrote The Third Screen. I was just looking for his book up here. It's a great book by Chuck Martin. He writes for Media Post, and he talks about it the same way, in that same glowing way, that, listen, this is the first company that basically invented the check-in, the benefit for checking in, the mayor checking. We've all heard this story about the disconnect between the digital world and check-ins and the real world at the cashier, where a happy person walked up to a cashier at the Tasty Delight and said, "Hey, I'm the mayor," and the guy looked at him like he was crazy, right? We've all heard these anecdotes, and it's all from Tasty Delight, so it's worth the read. And Chuck Martin agrees with Asif that this is something that everybody should read. But there's nothing better than there are case studies, and then there's this book. That is the best. That is the best review ever. So you can find out information about it. There's a website which is Tasty Delight. Now that's TASTI, the letter D, LITE.com/book. You'll get all the information, all the reviews, or you can just jump on Amazon and buy it right now. I don't know if it's on Audible, but if it is, it's worth a listen. It is on Amazon and an ebook, and certainly on iBooks as well. So, Tasty Delight. I love it. Book reviews by Asif Khan. I was going to say, next time we got to bring the lights down. You can do a reading with a British accent. Yes.
You know what? We'll put it on SoundCloud.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. And full circle. That's it. That's the show. That's episode number 94. If there is something that we've missed, if there is something that you would like us to include, if you'd like us to change something, if you'd like us to give you more of something, 10 stories, 15 stories, if you'd like to talk to us all day, if you'd like us to stream live, just what we do all day, reach out, untethered@gmail.com or cf@thelbma.com. We'd love to hear your comments, feedback, suggestions. And again, please go on to iTunes, give us a great rating, let us know, leave a comment, reach out by email, let us know that you've done that. We'll read this on the show. It's a great way, it's an easy way to get your company, your website, and you on our show. Really simple. Really simple. Just give us 5 stars. Is that
It's not too much to ask.
I was just thinking, though, is that like a bribe? Am I going to get in trouble for that? I don't care. Do it. See you next week for episode number 95. 5 away from 100. Asif, safe travels. Everybody else, thanks for watching.
Cheers.